thank you for all that you've given me. Remember that you come from the original source, so connect me to that source and let the divine in you flow through the divine in me. Let me serve you greatly as a knight in the kingdom of heaven, and be fearless as instructed by San Miguel. Put the people on my path that I may need to meet, and let me see the signs to guide me on this journey. Connect me to the universe. Let the force flow through me as a Jedi. Let me vibrate at a higher level to rise above the collective consciousness and be closer to God. Let me bring light where there is dark, and good where there is evil. Let me be selfless in my actions and helpful to others. Mother Earth, you are my connection to the universe and all that comes after it. I am yours, and you are mine. I salute you. That's how I have to start out every day. Yeah, I'm that guy. Yeah, no, I didn't want to be that guy. I never thought I'd have to meditate or do yoga. I didn't want to be here doing this. Do you know how hard I tried not to do this show? For 2.5 years, I tried not to do this show. And then I saw the feather. Because I see signs. Yeah. Do you see signs? You see signs? Okay, good. There. I was worried it was just me for a minute, but now that we all know we see signs, it's not so awkward. So, here's the thing about seeing signs. We all see them, right? But it's just that, it's intuition. It's when you see something that says, hey, I should talk to this person, I should go into this place, or you see something that makes you think I should be doing this with my life instead of that, but we don't. Often we're just like, oh, I'm late for work, I gotta do this, I got a plan, I'll get around to it next week, I'll come back, deal with it then. So I had a life-changing experience, and then I started to see signs. Well, it's more that I started to follow signs, right? I just decided from here on in, I'm just going to, no matter what the intuition or whatever, wherever it guides me, I'm just going to let it go that way. Which is a weird way to decide to live all the time, because we're trained to think we're doing things that we think we know what we're up to. So I started, and then after about 5 months, the signs start getting bigger. Right? First it's little signs, and then the first big sign I got, I was going to meditation, this Bodhi meditation in Richmond. I learned to go to like a group meditation practice, which I never thought I'd find myself in, but there I was. And then all of a sudden I saw this, like, my eyes were closed, I saw this message, and I could read it. It was a sign. I was trying to read it. It was spelling something. I was like, what is that? Is that W-N? Is that an I? I couldn't read it. It was driving me nuts. I'm like, I know that's saying something. So there was a little break, and I went outside and talked to some of my other fellow meditators I met. And I was like, yeah, well, we were in that meditation. I saw this sign. I was trying to read it. And then they just all looked at me and were like, oh, is that right? And then they went back inside. I don't know if they went inside and said, hey, the new guy's seeing signs. But they just kind of left me there, which I thought was odd. And nobody seemed to, know what I was talking about. So I got home that night and said, man, I couldn't figure out this message. I was sitting there watching hockey or whatever you're doing, sitting on the couch, and then the clock on my PVR flashed. It changed to 11:11. I was like, 11:11. I'm like, that's the sign. That's why I couldn't read it. It wasn't letters, it was numbers. I had it all mixed up. I'm like, it's 11:11. I'm like, what does that mean? Right? God doesn't have all the answers, but luckily Google does. So I went over and I Googled it, and it says 11:11 is the universe's way of urging us to pay attention to our heart, our soul, and our inner intuition. It's serving as a wake-up call to us that opportunities are not missed in this lifetime. Seeing this particular sequence means the universe is trying to have us open our eyes to the synchronicities around us. The universe tries to show us the way through small signs, but the trick is we have to be ready to listen to them. So I just want to say at this point, I'm not religious in any way. Right? I've never gone to Sunday school, I've never been to a mass. The only time I've been to a church is for a wedding or a funeral. So guiding this, you hear this sort of thing that's telling you to follow the signs. So I'm like, okay, that's great. Thanks for the tip. I've been following signs. That's a big one. But at this point in my life, I decided I was going to write a talking monkey movie. I was like, yeah, that's what I'm going to sink my life into. Who doesn't love a talking monkey movie? Kids to adults all the way up. I'll use my talents and make monkeys talk. That's what I was going to do. So I get ready to write my talking monkey movie, and when I write, I like to get away from the city. So I head to Vancouver Island. My grandmother's, there's a suite there. My grandmother passed away about 4 years ago. My aunt and uncle lived upstairs, and they kept the suite open for any of the grandkids if they ever wanted to use it. So I go back, and I'm there for a few days. I'm working on my talking monkey movie, and on day 3, where I'm plugging my phone, my laptop, all that stuff, I go over and in the corner on the floor, I see this. I was like, what is that? That looks like a symbol to me. And I've been in this place lots of times. I've never seen that before. That was never there before. Or I just never saw it, but I've been standing in that spot 3 days in a row, and suddenly that's there. So I was like, oh, that's kind of strange. And then, when I write, I like to think first, right? I go for a walk, put music on, I start thinking. And so I'm going for my pre-writing walk, and then, I don't know, 10 minutes up the road, I stop and I come and I see this. I was like, that looks like the same symbol to me. Like if you put them together, side by side, they look pretty similar. So 10 minutes apart, I get the same image. I don't think that's like a coincidence. So I'm like, I don't know. And I was like, what is that? And I'm like, that looked like a phoenix to me. So I was like, oh, you know what? Let's check Google. So I go back, and then it says the phoenix is a symbol of creative transformation. It describes the transformation that our ego must undergo in a creative endeavor. The phoenix is a symbol of the transformation of human consciousness and our creative spirit that each of us must undergo to one degree or another to create what we desire. So it's telling me, hey, you're going through a change. You gotta change if you want to, be what you should be. And but I look in the mirror and I don't look any different. Right? Yeah, I don't suddenly, I'm not growing a beard, I'm not the robe, I got shoes on, not sandals, nothing's changed. But the change comes from within. But I was like, you know what? I got a talking monkey movie to finish. I'll get around to this stuff when the monkey's speaking, right? So I come back here to Vancouver and I'm back to my meditation practice, right? I'm out to meditating, and then again, I see another sign. This time, I decide I'm going to draw it up. I'm going to write it down. So I sketch it. And this is what I'm better at talking than drawing. So I draw this, and then I one of the head meditating people now knew I talked about 1111. She also sees signs. So I had one person not to. So I brought this like, do you know what this is? And she's like, no. Rats. But she's like, it looks like a pyramid to me. It looks like a pyramid in the middle and 2 pyramids down below, and then together they make one big pyramid. I was like, oh, pyramids? Of course, right? Let's see what Google has to say about pyramids. So at the spiritual level, the pyramid is a symbol for the integration of self and soul. Within man, there are 2 aspects. There's this real inner divine self. There's also the body and the intellect, which, at its present stage of evolution, consider himself to be a separate egotist entity. However, there comes a time when man realizes that he is not the body and the intellect. His real existence is a state of being, a consciousness at one with universal consciousness. So it's saying like, hey, we're trying to tell you, wake up, we're inviting you into universal consciousness. But I was like, hey, when I say I'm going to write a talking monkey movie, I write a talking monkey movie. Thanks, just keep with the reminders coming. So I head back, I'm like, I'm going to finish this talking monkey movie. So I go back to Parksville on the island, I'm working on the monkey movie. And about day 3, I go outside, have a smoke or whatever, I come back in, and as I'm going by, the clock on the stove is flashing. And when you see signs, you can feel it. It's like, and I'm like, damn it, another sign, right? What do you guys ask me this time, right? So I go back and I look, I almost didn't want to go, but I go back and look. And the weird thing is, I've been in this place like 3 days, I've been cooking on that stove. That light never worked. The stove light has never worked. Suddenly, it's just flashing 1765. Yeah, and it doesn't change. It's just flashing the same number for like 2 minutes. And 1765 is an odd number for a clock. Because if it's military time, it can't be 17 hours and 65 minutes. And it can't be 17 minutes and 65 seconds, right? There's no, 1765 does not exist in time, but it's existing in front of me at this moment. I'm like, well, 1111 meant something, Google. Let's see what's wrong with 1765. It says number 1765 suggests that changes taking place in your life have come about for reasons that will become more obvious with time and hindsight. And you are asked to trust the process of life and go with the flow and urgings of your soul. If you can let go of your human ego's need to control and hand the situation to your higher spiritual self, you open the door for possibilities you may never have imagined. Go with your first impressions. Don't analyze it. Just trust yourself and your hunches. So, that was the end of the monkey movie. Okay, guys, I get it. I hear the message. You don't have to keep reminding me here. So I decided, I'm like, okay, I'll go over right with God's will. But we don't always, follow through on our plans. Right? So I get home and I'm thinking about this. I'm going for my walk and thinking about, like, are you actually going to write and talk about this? Were you fucking crazy? You don't want to be that guy, right? So I'm thinking, I'm out for my walk and I'm listening to the music as I always do, and then I heard the song that I walked out to that said, "Don't walk away in silence." It's like, oh, it's telling me, don't talk about this. Don't walk away in silence. You're supposed to be talking. It's reminding me. I'm like, so then I turned. I'm like, okay, should I do this? And then I turned and I saw a white feather, a single white feather. And for me, when I see a white feather, that's a sign that's a yes. If I'm thinking of something and I see a white feather, that means yes, you follow up what your plan is. So I see it, I'm like, okay, I guess I'm really writing this thing, right? So I'm walking home, and on my way home, I see this. I was like, oh, finally a sign I don't have to Google. Why couldn't they have spelled it out the whole time? Thanks, guys, it's getting easier. So I come home and I write this, but what is this? Right? How did I become a guy who follows signs, has to do yoga, meditate? So about 3 years ago, I was in a pretty dark place, right? I was drinking a lot. A lot of creative people tend to drink because when you drink, it just shuts it off, right? You can stop creating. You drink, you'll just do nothing. So I said, man, I really would not like to be drinking so much. I wonder if there's anybody who knows about not drinking. And then I thought, maybe I'll walk in to AA. Those people seem to know how to not drink. So they say they're experts. But don't worry, this isn't a show about AA. You can relax. I just went in to check out what they do. Right? So I go in there, I'm listening to all the different stuff they talk about. And as they talk about things, what I come to realize is what you're suffering when you drink a lot is you're suffering from a spiritual malady. Right? You're disconnected. You're very egocentric. You're self-centered. You're thinking about yourself only, and you're not connected to anything bigger than you. Right? So around this time is when I heard about something called ayahuasca. And I heard about it at most places you hear about illicit substances, a party. So I was there, and there was this guy talking about him and his wife were going to Peru to do ayahuasca. I'm like, ayahuasca? What is this stuff? He said, well, it's this stuff that you drink. They mix these plants together down in Peru. The indigenous people have been doing it for thousands of years. They mix it together, you drink it, and then you go into other dimensions. Right? Because like, you go up, you see like amazing other dimensions. Some people say you see heaven, but you also have to face all your demons. You go to the darkest side of things, and it's just an awful dark side. So he's telling me all this. I was like, so this sounds like a drug-induced battle for your soul. I don't know about this. So he says, yeah, we go down and everyone gets in a hut and we all drink the stuff and they give everyone pails because most people vomit, some people soil themselves. Oh, this just keeps getting better. And he's like, but when you go through the process, afterwards, you leave your old self behind. Like you get like a fresh start. It's like a do-over. You get a reset button. You come out like an entirely changed and new person. That's why like some people like Gabor Mate, they're using this to work with like heroin addicts recover when they give them this stuff because they can leave their old self behind and get a fresh start. So at this point, all of a sudden I started feeling like a guy that had never saved any money, but then I got like a tip at the track. It's like, I don't know if this is going to work, but if it does, it could fix everything. Got one last shot here. So I decided, like, okay, so I start to look into ayahuasca, and I look it up, and this is what it says in Wikipedia. It says, people who have consumed ayahuasca report having spiritual revelations regarding their purpose on Earth and the true nature of the universe. I'm like, well, that doesn't sound too bad. That doesn't sound like a drug. That sounds like a pretty good tip. So I read more about it. What ayahuasca is. It's two plants that they mix together. It's an entheogenic brew. And entheo in Greek means to generate the divine from within. So what they do is they mix these two plants together, and the main components are DMT and harmaline, which are actually two things that your body naturally produces. You have these chemicals in your body all the time. So when you take ayahuasca, you're not introducing a foreign substance into your body. You're just topping up. When you've already got in a big way. So some people don't even react to it. Some people take it and have no reaction whatsoever. They're so locked in their frontal cortex that they can't get out of it. They're just locked in this type of thing, so that it has no effect on them whatsoever. So I'm sort of like, how could that be a drug? Right? That's why the indigenous people call it a medicine. Here we call it a drug. Because if you give a guy LSD, it's going to work. If you give it to this type of guy who can't unlock his frontal cortex, that's probably the type of guy who freaks out, rips off all his clothes, runs out the street, and starts turning over cars. Right? So, I'm like, you know what? I got a buddy and I have talked about. I'm like, let's go. We're gonna do this, right? So we decide we're gonna do it, but we don't. Yeah, big plans, but then when you actually have to start to go through it, you're like, nah, maybe just let's think about it next month. We'll review it again. So I don't know. Time goes by, 5 months or something, and I'm sitting at home. I'm not doing much, and I just I happen to take February off. You can do that in my line of work. I just decided I'm going to take February off for no reason. Wasn't really sure. I'm sitting around watching hockey, whatever I do. Just kind of killing time there. And the phone rings, and it's the guy from the party that I talked to who was going to do ayahuasca. So he's like, "Oh, I went. It was the most amazing thing. I used to suffer from depression. I'm absolutely fine now. I don't have to take meds. My wife's never been happier. I completely changed. I got a whole, do-over. I'm meditating. I'm so connected to everything. What they said was true. I saw all these things. It's the toughest journey I've ever gone on, but the most rewarding thing I've ever done. I would have traded my house for it, which is a pretty big ringing endorsement. Right? And then he said, we're going next week. I only did one of the ceremonies. You're supposed to do 3. One was enough for me. But we're going to go back down. If you were interested, do you want to come with us? I was like, well, let me think about this, right? So I start to look at flights and what it's going to cost and all sorts of stuff. And I'm like, you know what? Forget it. Too much. I just decided, you know what? Yeah, I chicken out. Right? So I'm like, no, I'm not going to go. Sorry. So I go back to more important stuff like watching TV. So I'm sitting there, and then at exactly 5 o'clock that night, my phone rings. At 5, and I see it, and it's a number I don't recognize. And I answer it, and it's this lady that I know that can talk to dolphins. I didn't know she could talk to dolphins at the time I answered the phone. I just knew who she was from high school. We connected on Facebook. She did this brain bliss thing where she uses dolphin sound techniques to help people get over trauma and things. And my mom's got MS and stuff. I thought, oh, maybe the dolphin lady can help my mom. So we started talking, and she tells me all about her dolphin stuff. She's like, I'm a little weird, and oh, you're a little weird. I was just thinking of doing ayahuasca. And she's like, I did ayahuasca. I know a great shaman. She trained in Peru for 20 years. I can set you up with a shaman if you want to go do ayahuasca. Right? So now God is telemarketing me. he's called twice in 5 hours for the same message. So I'm like, okay, I guess I should probably go. Right? So I take her up on the offer. She gives me email of the shaman, and I'm talking to the shaman by email, and then we decided that we're going to talk, so we're going to talk using the ancient technique of Skype. So we've arranged to talk, and at this point I'm back on the island. I'm at my mom's. I'm visiting like the day that the chat's supposed to happen, and my mom is one of these people. She's like got like every self-help book thing that you've ever seen. She's got like the Celestine Prophecy, Conversations with God. She's got Power Positive. There's Wayne Dyer videos all over the place. She gives me The Secret every year for my birthday. I've got a dozen of them on the shelf. I'm waiting until I get 13, then I'm going to put a bunch of us in a circle, read it out loud, and punch a hole through the universe. So I'm in this pleasure dome of self-help. My mom's on the Skype. The Skype call comes in, then it answers. The Skype thing answers, and I see the shaman, and she looks just like Lily Tomlin. She's got red lipstick and long black hair. She's dressed like Mrs. Robert from Three's Company. She's chain smoking. I was like, this isn't what I thought a shaman would look like at all. I was picturing like a shrunken Peruvian woman with a bowl cut and a necklace made of human knuckles. So she's telling me all about the ayahuasca. She's been 20 years she's been trained. She's like, how do you feel about this? I'm like, what do you mean, how do I feel? She's like, well, I want you to trust your feelings on this. I'm like, I always like to walk and think about stuff. She's like, well, why don't you go for your walk and then let me know what you decide. So I put on my music, I'm going for my walk, and on the walk I hear the song by Soundgarden, Searching with My Good Eye Closed. So I'm like, is that a sign? Am I searching with my good eye closed? Do I need to open my good eye? Will this help do this? So I'm like, this is telling me, hey, you're walking blind right now. You should do this. It's going to help with this problem. So I'm like, okay. So I decide, I tell her, yeah, I'm in. My buddy wants me. She's like, oh, we're going to have to talk to him as well. Right? So what happens is I found out I'm not just deciding whether I go. The shaman is actually deciding whether they're going to take you as well. It's kind of a two-way thing. So my buddy Kenny and I, we arranged for the Skype. She comes up and she tells us, she tells me like beforehand that she's going to plan an itinerary. So she tells Kenny that she's planned out the whole itinerary. She's got all the costs. We stay in a hotel. We do 3 ceremonies in 3 days, and we do yoga every day beforehand to prepare for the ceremony. And then she tells us that her medicine, it's ayahuasca. That's a generic name. Hers is called Paloma Blanca. There's different sort of strains of it, but this is more of a. She's like, it's a medicine of the heart. It's a rebirthing medicine. It's more horizontal. The experience is more horizontal. It's not as vertical up and down through other dimensions as what the guys in Peru, she knew who they were that we were going to do. So she tells us all about this, and I was like, what? This is stuff for little girls. It's like, if I'm going to the theme park, I want to ride the roller coaster. I don't want to have a cup and saucer. It was like, what's all this yoga crap? I'm like, puking in a bucket and soiling yourself in front of people is one thing, but yoga, that's embarrassing. So we decide we're going to go and close up the Skype, and Kenny just turns and says, man, I sure hope this stuff is strong enough. I was like, I'm just worried about the yoga. So now we're in Mexico. Down there, we're fully into. We meet her that night. She tells us, we're at the hotel. She's like, tomorrow we're going to meet. We'll go to yoga, then do the ceremony. Write out your intentions tonight, because you're going to ask the medicine. You can write out what you want to find out, and then we'll do that before the ceremony. So Kenny and I are back at the hotel, and we're writing out our lists. We're like a couple of kids on Christmas Eve, like writing out, oh man, I want to get over this spiritual malady, connect myself up to a higher power. I'm making up my little list. He's got his secret list over there. We're not really sharing. You ask my questions, I'll ask mine. Right? We write out our little lists, so we meet the next day for yoga. And we go to this, it's just the 3 of us go to like this weird lady's place. And she's just like the yoga that she's doing is like she's chopping. We're just like, ah! She's screaming, got a little yell. She's doing, this does not look like my wife's yoga DVD. I don't know what we're doing, but it's crazy. So we leave. Now we're heading for the ceremony, and I can tell Kenny's a little nervous. I'm just like, oh, thank God the hard part's over. Done with the yoga. So we go to the ceremony, we walk where it's going to take place. It's like, that's her place. So as we walk in, she opens the door, and she's got this cat there. She's like, oh, that's my cat, Sarah. She helps with the ceremony. I'm like, oh, great, she's a cat lady too. So we get up to where the ceremony's going to take place, and first thing I notice is there's like a ceramic baby deer in a fireplace, picture of Jesus, and then there's like a table in the middle, and then like two like makeshift little beds beside it, and then a plastic bag beside each of them. Like, what's the bag for? She's like, oh, that's for in case you threw up and purge. There's a plastic bag there. I'm like, what the fuck have I got myself into, right? But I'm like, but at the same time, I was thinking, you know what? I can handle my drugs. I'll be fine. I'm no rookie like Kenny over here. So we sit down. We got the attendant, and then she's like, she goes to get the ayahuasca. She's pouring it into the stuff. And I had looked it up on YouTube, and you see people, they all drink like a little shot glass of it. And the shaman does it as well. So they're on the same consciousness level of you. If anything goes sideways, they know they can experience what you're going through. So she brings it over. She's got her shot glass, but she brings over 2 giant wine goblets for Kenny and I. She cake sizes us. Like, these 2 are for you. Well, that's a lot. So she's like, blow your intentions in. You do we blow her little things in. She's like, knock it back as fast as you can. Because it doesn't taste good. Like, everyone asks how it tastes, and the answer is awful. Right? So you knock it back, and it's really heavy. Like, I don't know if you saw The Matrix, but when the metal is going down, it's like, ah! That's what it feels like. You just feel this heavy, cold stuff, and you can feel it going all the way down, and then it hits your stomach. And then for 10 minutes, you're just like, please, don't throw up. Right? You're just trying to keep the medicine in. So then we lie back. We'll fly back on our beds. And lying there, about 45 minutes goes by. I'm like, man, maybe I didn't take enough. Maybe I need a little bit more. And then all of a sudden things start to get really pink. I'm seeing everything's changing to pink. It's just this warm, loving pink color. And then I'm lying there, and all of a sudden I feel my hands are starting to move. I'm like, are my hands moving? Like, I think my hands are moving. Yeah, my hands are definitely moving. Look at that. They're moving. It's the medicine of the heart. My heart's opening up. I'm opening up my heart. Look at that. My medicine of the heart's making my heart open up. It's really working. And then I can only describe the vision I was in that I was in front of like a river of love. It was a pink river of love. It's like, come on over and have a drink. I was like, whoa. Turns out, man, was I thirsty. I was low in the love department. Yeah, I think my little Grinch heart grew 3 sizes that day. Lapping up this river, I'm just having an amazing time. And then I can hear this little like sound, and I open my eyes, and I look over at Kenny, and there's a beam of light. It's like a green beam of light is going right on his head, and he's just like, it's like an exorcist. I was like, well, that doesn't look too good. I think I'm going back to the good stuff. I sort of turned myself back to the river of love, and then I hear Kenny, all of a sudden I hear him kick the table, and he yells out the shaman's name. He's like, Christina, Sarah, help! I was even calling for the cat at this point. And all I'm thinking to myself is, I was just like, oh my God, I wish Kenny wasn't here. Kenny would just please go away. Just don't want Kenny here. And then the shaman got up and took him off to like the quiet room. And I was like, look at that, I'm controlling my own reality already. I'm going like straight up. You're just like rocketing, like up, up, up. She said horizontal bullshit. This was pretty straight up. I don't know if she checked what horizontal and vertical mean, but she needs to adjust her brochure. Because I'm just going straight up, up, up. And then you came to what we, like just beings of light. There's just all these beings of light, and they're holding up like a little thing of light. And then the shaman told me later that that was like you being born. That's you seeing your soul. This is a rebirthing medicine, so you're being reborn into this new consciousness, right? And then it just started loading me up. It was just downloading me, like how the universe works. You just lie there, just being loaded with information. It's like the Matrix. You're just being downloaded with more than you can handle. All of a sudden, I just sat up. I was like, I know Kung Fu. So I'm sitting there, and then I can hear Kenny down the hall. He's just puking his guts out. You can hear his foot kicking the door. I don't know how I've never heard a man vomit this hard in my life. Like, man, that rookie sure can't handle his crunch. And then the shaman's like, maybe we should put on some music. He's dealing with some stuff down the hall here. So she puts on this music, and it's very sitar-y, and it's got bells and stuff. And the weird thing is, I recognized it. I was like, in 1992, I was stepping off a bus here, and a bunch of Hare Krishnas were going by. Yeah, I don't even know if they still have Hare Krishnas. I haven't seen them at the airport in years, right? But they were going by, and the song they were playing was this song I was hearing now. I hadn't heard this song since. I don't even know how I recognized it, but when I got off the bus, and the guy said something to me, and I said, yeah, I heard you guys playing music. He went by, he's like, but did you hear the message? And what I realized at that point, the message he was telling me, I wouldn't get until 25 years later at this point. The message was, are you listening to what's going on? All you're being shown about the universe. And it sounds kind of crazy to get a message that is 25 years later, but it was meant, given then, but it was meant. But when you're in this consciousness, time doesn't exist. If you look at consciousness, like every day when we wake up, we're just in this, whatever this is, and it just exists. It's always here. There's 4.5 billion years old. Then 25 years is nothing, right? That's instantaneous, right? It's just bang. He gave you the message right away as far as the universe is concerned. So now I'm having the most amazing experience of my life. Right? This is just if this was golf. And I was coming in after the first 9 holes at the turn, I would have been having the game of my life, right? I would have been coming in, I would have been buying beers beers for everyone, hot dogs, I'm shooting the lights up. I can never play any better than this. But then, let's just say I had a tough back 9. It started out innocently enough. I was just sort of sitting out on the deck with the shaman, and I could see this pulse of light coming from in the city. I'm like, yeah, you see that pulse? She's like, you can see that. I'm like, yeah. She's like, that's the heart. It's telling you should go there. There's something there for you. You should remember to go there. And then all of a sudden, I felt ill. I was like, well, I don't feel so good. And then all of a sudden, but it didn't feel like it was coming from my stomach. It was from the bottom of my spine. Just something felt like it traveled up my spine. And then I was like, and it wasn't the medicine, which is, I drank a lot of, and it looked like a grape. Right? Here's the thing about this, is when you take this, when you feel it, you don't hallucinate. You see visions and you hear things, but when you open your eyes, you're you, the chair's that, you know where you're at, this is the place. So when I say it was a grape, it was a grape. I didn't understand it either, but that's what was lodged in my spine, apparently. So the shaman's like, that's a blockage that's a deep blockage from way back. So that's something you got out of there, right? And then all of a sudden, we hear Kenny come out of the bathroom. He looks like shit. His hair is all over, he's pale, his eyes are there, he comes out, he walks out, he just says, I've just been talking Chinese for the last 4 years. Do you mind if I join you? sudden his eyes start going, he's like, oh no, Kenny's going for another lap, right? This looks like something the shaman, Christina, can deal with. I'm going to go back inside, lie down. You guys, I'm going back in, right? So I go back in and I lie down, they're out there, and then I just hear this, I can hear like a plastic bag, like ruffling. I hear like this, something scratch around. I open my eyes and I look, and it's Sarah. The cat is making this bag by Kenny's bed into like a little bowl. She's making a little cute bowl for Kenny. Look at that, Sarah really does help with Sarah. Making a little basket there. So then I lie back, and then the dark side comes. And it's, all I can describe it as is like pure fear. Right? Like it's very dark. These vines just start to pull you down. The vines are very deep, dark green and purple. Everything's black around you, and then it's just, you're confronting all your demons for an endless amount of time. Right? It's not like, well, I think I've learned enough. You can open the door now. No, you're staying until it's done with you. Right? So all of a sudden, you see this stuff, and all of a sudden you start to feel, all of a sudden I started feeling ill. Right? I'm like, oh, you're seeing stuff that's so horrific, it's forcing you to hurt, right? Feel sick. And then all of a sudden I was like, oh my God, Sarah wasn't making that basket for Kenny. That bag's for me. And so all of a sudden I was like, all of a sudden when you're puking, I'm like, I didn't know I had a problem with Brandon! My brother! You're doing some me stuff! Like you're throwing up people. It's just strange, but you're getting rid of things in your life that have been blocking you. So you're just throwing up people. I'm like, oh my gosh, it's awful. And then, all of a sudden I saw an image of Kenny. And he looked like a goat with horns on. And it was so horrific that it made me feel sick. And then all of a sudden I realized, oh my God, he's got so much stuff now, it's using me as a vessel for him. Oh man, I gotta help this guy bail his boat, right? Just like, you son of a bitch, kid. Just killing me, this guy, right? You feel like you're dying, because you are, in a way, right? And then I just kind of collapsed. I just got absolutely exhausted. And I remember thinking to myself, you know what? Fuck this. When this is over, not only can I not handle this any longer, when this is over, I'm going back to the hotel, I'm getting on a flight, I'm going home. I'm done with this, right? And then I just saw this man on a horse. He looked like a Roman soldier, he was dressed like a Roman soldier. Maybe he had some other soldiers with him, because he sort of came over, and then he just said, oh, he's done. And then I guess somebody said, well, he's like, yeah, that guy, he's had enough. He's finished. Right? And then he just looked at me with disgust. like he's like, you made me come all the way down here for this guy? Look at this guy, he's a mess. And then he just took off. He just headed off. He knew he had bigger things to do than to be checking on me. Right? So then you start to come out of it. It kind of comes out of like a fog, but it's all of a sudden like, it just lifts, and then it's like crystal clear. And if you want to know what you look like after your first journey on ayahuasca, you look like this. Yeah, whatever blows your hair back, right? So we go back. We've done our first thing. You share, you talk all about your experience, and we head back. Day 2's coming. And I know I said I wasn't going to do this again, but when it was over, I was like, I learned so much. I was like, I've got to go back. There's more answers waiting there for me. But I'm also terrified, because I know I haven't got everything out. Right? So I'm terrified to go, but I'm waiting, but I got to go back. So the next morning, my alarm is going off. I hear my alarm going off, but with my alarm going off, I hear this voice say, wake up. It is time to wake up. I was like, I don't remember that being my usual alarm. Am I hearing a voice? But it goes with it. So I wake up, and I'm like, oh man, that's a different way to wake up, right? Because I haven't drank medicine, now I'm just hearing it. So I'm like, okay, we're going to go for day 2. So we're walking to yoga, but first, the shaman, Christine's like, you should go to where the medicine was telling you, that light that we saw. So we're going up, she's like, okay, let's just take the path. I'm like, the one on the left or the right? It's like the one in the middle. I didn't notice the one in the middle. Right? Sometimes we don't see the path that's directly in front of us. Right? I saw these two options. Turns out the real path was right there. So it leads us up to this cathedral, and it's a giant thing in the middle. We go inside, and I look up and I see this. It's like, that outfit looks familiar. Right? That looks like what the guy on the horse was wearing in the vision last night. And then there's a painting on the wall, and I see this. I'm like, that's the guy. Right? I tell Michelle, I'm like, that's the guy from the horse. She's like, that guy? I'm like, she's like, are you sure? I'm like, yeah. She's like, do you know who that is? I'm like, I don't have any idea. I'm not religious. She's like, that's San Miguel. That's Saint Michael, the archangel. He's the leader of God's army. She's like, are you sure you saw that guy? I was like, yeah, I don't know how many times I got to tell you. Yeah, I saw that guy, right? So, like, it was normal. So she's like, I don't know what you are in this rebirthing thing, but you're a big one. You're seeing something. We'll have to find out. So at the ceremony. So now we go to yoga. We're in the second one. We're back in yoga, but this one's normal. This is like the yoga from the DVD. Right? We're in a place everyone seems to be sane at this one. So she's telling us, like, oh, you're all spiritual warriors. So she's got us in this warrior pose. I'm looking at Kenny, and we started calling Kenny because of the goat horns. Afterwards, when we shared, Kenny and I talked, and he described his vision of what he looked like while he was vomiting with the goat horns, is how he saw himself. Exact same vision I had while I was getting Kenny's stuff bailed out of his boat. So we both saw the same vision of him as the goat, even though we've never talked about goats. We hit our list from each other. We were in different areas of the house. So, and his leg won't stop twitching. So now we just still like a brilliant kick. So now we just start calling him the goat, right? We just calling Kenny the goat. That's what the shaman calls him, the goat. So as I'm doing my pose, I'm staring at Kenny. I'm staring at the goat. Right? I'm like, look at me. I'm just a man staring at a goat. Then I thought of the men who stare at goats. Like, I'm one of the men who stare at goats. I only saw the men who stare at goats, but that was like George Clooney, these guys, and they did everything by following signs and intuition. They thought they were trying to make a new earth army of Jedis. At the end, Ewan McGregor says the world needs more Jedis, runs through a wall. I want to be one of those. Right? So all of a sudden I just think to myself, look, you're a Jedi, man, you've made it. You're staring at the goat. This is the sign. So I find yoga to be great this day. And we head to the second ceremony. So we head in and we go inside, you sit down, you do the whole sort of thing, and then I lie back. And this time it was instantaneous. Right? As soon as I lie back, it was there. So I thought. The shaman told me later I'd been there for about an hour. But all of a sudden I just kind of sat up, and I looked over and I saw the ceramic deer in the fireplace beside me. It was making me feel like I'm supposed to stand. So I'm trying to stand, but because you're being reborn in new consciousness, it's like you've never stood before. It's very thick. Like I said, you don't hallucinate, but it's thick. It's like there's stuff going on. Like maybe use an air traffic controller. You can't see what's going on, but something's going on, so it's hard to move. Right? It's like being deep underwater diver as you try to walk. And then you have to think, like, did I stand because I saw the goat? Or the baby deer? Or is the baby deer there to get me to stand? Like, does the universe work that way? Or does it work the way we think? So now I'm moving, and I move, and it's telling you, the medicine will lead you. You just follow whatever it sort of tells you. It leads me into this room. It's quite bright. And I see like a picture of this little girl looking up towards that, and then I just sort of collapse by the wall. I'm exhausted from walking only probably 150 feet. I'm sort of leaning up against the wall, and then the vision, once again, San Miguel, Saint Michael, he shows up on his horse, and he's like, hey, hop on, right? He reaches down to give me a hand, and I was like, I thought you didn't really care much for me. And he's like, well, you're one of us now. So he pulls me onto the horse, and then we rode, you just seem to send up. Everything's gold. Pyramids of gold, everything's gold. I guess you could describe it as like heaven, what they said in the Wikipedia. That's what it felt like. I was going up into heaven. And then he told me to kneel and knighted me. So Now when people call me sir, I know it's not because I'm getting older. It's because I'm a knight. So he knighted me, and then when I opened my eyes, I was actually in like a prayer on this sort of footstool, but I didn't remember going there. I was over here, and now I open my eyes and I'm right here, and the shaman was beside me, and apparently I just turned to him and said, I'm awake. Right? So in the morning when I heard wake up, it's time to wake up, that wasn't telling me to like wake up from my sleep that I was having. That was telling me to wake up from the sleep I was in. It's trying to wake you up into a new consciousness. And now at this point, I'm awake. And she's like, oh, this is so fantastic. She's like, I better go check on the goat. She heads out to do her thing, and I'm still there. And now you can see the sun's going down. So I'm like, I know the dark side's coming, and I'm getting kind of scared. Right? But they're telling me, don't worry, we're always here with you. You're a knighted now. You're with us. And I just remember thinking to myself and saying, like, I'm not afraid. I'm not afraid. And then I heard, like, the voice of Yoda say, you will be. You will be. And then it went dark. And then I was like, oh no, not another tough back nine. And all of a sudden I was like, man, I got to get to the bathroom quickly. So I'll tell you this, when God gives you an enema, he's very thorough. Having this awful experience, and now I'm throwing up again, right, as well. And only this time, you're throwing up stuff you've done with your life. I can't believe you wasted my time as a shoe salesman. I'm throwing out comedy agents and just getting out all this stuff. I'm just like, oh, but it's just exhausting. And all I was thinking to myself was, get the medicine out. I want this to end. I don't want any more of this. Like, this, end this. Please end this. And then I got this sort of like message telling me like, hey, look, we can end this anytime. If you want to end this, we can stop this right now. You can head home. Or you can stay here. Because at the same time, you're being loaded up with information of how the universe works. And keep learning. I was like, oh, all right, I'll keep learning. Oh, fine, you know, I'm trying to hang. And then just a Native American warrior chief was there. Put his hand on my shoulder, he said, you can rest now. And then there was a knock at the door, so he split. The shaman opens up the door, comes in and sees me there. She's like, oh man, you probably, you know, you're really, something big. You've got a lot that you're getting rid of. You're being loaded up. You've got a lot of energy in you going on here. And she's like, you probably want to go home right now, but don't, right? Because there's still more to go. And I'm like, yeah, it's okay. I've talked to him. The warrior chief told me I could rest now. And she's like, did you say warrior chief, like native warrior? I'm like, yeah. She's like, was he in full sort of garb with 2 white lines under his eye? I'm like, yeah, how'd you know that? She's like, well, I just had the same chief tell me to come and check on you. That's why I'm here. So now we both had a vision of the same vision. Once again, like Kenny and I saw the same goat. Now today we see the same vision going on in this consciousness. Now I don't know if that means this native chief passed through it. I can't really explain things. I'm just telling you how this happens. So I go into the room and I lie down in this bedroom and I'm just kind of sweating out my hands. It feels like I'm detoxing. I'm just getting rid of all the stuff that's been inside me for years. And then I guess the best way to describe it, this is the best example I can give of what happens when you take this, is it lets you replay moments from your life, but now as a neutral observer. Like the way that you perceived it, what your perception of what was going on at that time in your life, it'll show you what was maybe actually going on. Not your perception of how you took it, but what was happening. So I have this grandmother, my dad's mother, was just a miserable old bat. Like just always cranky, coming out, miserable. Hated this lady. She was always terrible to us. I couldn't stand her. But my grandfather's place was this home filled with laughter. Right? This big table, all his son, all my uncles, aunts, everybody would sit around this table having great. It was just awesome. Everyone had a great time. This was like a great place to be. And then she'd come out like, oh, miserable in the room. But what I was showing was that she wasn't invited. Right? I always thought she was miserable. She was this woman. She was like a kept woman who was kept, forced to stay in that room. She was only there to raise his kids, make his meals, clean the house. She had this horrific, awful life. She was basically a prisoner in her own home for her entire life, and that's why she was sad. Nobody wants to be sad and unloved. She was just an unloved woman kept in a room. Her kids didn't love her, I didn't love her, her husband didn't love her. It's just this awful, it shows this awful thing. So then I come out of medicine. I come out to the living room. We're all sort of sitting there talking, sharing experiences. Kenny, the goat, he's been time traveling. Yeah, he said he went through all types of ancient, they traveled all through ancient China. Oh. I was like, well, luckily you're fluent in Chinese. So that'll help. So we get our, we finish our ceremony, we're all talking. We got one day to go. So now I'm like, okay, we've got one final ceremony. That morning, and I just start seeing a lot of pyramids from here on in. Because we know that's it, waking up to the consciousness of the day. I'm just seeing pyramids everywhere. So I have trouble sleeping. But I finally, I get to sleep. So Kenny is awake before me the next morning. He's up. And he's like, didn't you hear those bells ringing? Didn't that wake you up? I'm like, no, what, you were hearing bells? I'm like, maybe you're an angel, you got the wings. And he's like, well, no, down here in Mexico, when you hear a bell ring, that means it's time to take out your garbage. Okay, so we go to yoga. This time it's a breathe. We're going up there, but on the way I'm seeing I'll see a sign with graffiti on it, the town. Something will tell me to go look on the other side of that sign. I would go look on the other side of the sign, and it would just be the symbol of a pyramid. Everywhere I'm going, I'm seeing pyramids on this walk. And the shaman's like, you're awfully quiet today. I was like, well, I've only been awake for less than 24 hours. Give me a break here, right? I'm dealing with some shit. Let me get a grip. Let me figuring this out. So we go in for the final ceremony. We head out to here. We go outdoors into the desert. And she somehow got this place. I don't know how she got it. Stevens got this place outdoors, but there's nothing around us for miles. It's just in the middle of nowhere. So we sit down to do the ceremony and drink stuff, and then I tell her, oh, yeah, they told me today, this ceremony, I only have to do half. I don't need the cake size. Yeah, I bullshitted her, but I'll tell her. So we did it. Kenny's not, he still goes full kegger. And she tells me, she's like, if you can remember today, let me know if you see lights, if you start seeing lights, and if you can, I keep wondering why you saw this archangel. Ask them where you're from, right? Because you can ask questions of this medicine, and it'll give you. I never asked anything. I just forgot to ask. I was always just going on whatever it showed me, right? It would give me vision. So I'm like, okay. So we head out, and I find myself a little spot under the tree over here. I would take a little bed. Like, okay, I'll go over there. It's at the fourth floor. And then I'm just lying, and then I just started shaking, like convulsing, like crazy. And what it was, well, if you were walking by, you'd be like, that man is having a seizure. But what I felt was going on, it was the last of the resistance of me resisting this consciousness that it's trying to birth you into. Because our ego, our mind and our ego, they think we're one thing. They're like, this is you. It wants to hold on. It doesn't want to let go and let you become what you're supposed to become, as you hear in this about seeing the pyramids and what we went through in the sign. So I'm trying to resist, and then finally, it just ended. And I could sit up, and for the first time, I was conscious in this new consciousness. I could move. It wasn't heavy, like underwater. I could walk. I could do things. And I had that feeling of what they said about, I realized I had left it all behind. Right? I had the redo, the reset button. I was a whole new person at this point. Right? So it's telling you, the medicine's leading. So I'm walking, and it's like I'll walk to a point, and then something will urge, tell me to go left. And so I follow, and it leads me through a bunch of cactus shrubs and all this. It's just leading you. I don't know where I'm going. And it leads me to these bushes sort of apart, and right there in the middle is a man-made carved pyramid made out of stone. So I could have wandered anywhere for miles in this desert, but the medicine has led me right to another pyramid. So I'm standing there in front of the pyramid. I'm like, wow, this must be, I should be at this pyramid. And then all of a sudden my arms started to rise. Like they were doing on their own, no effort whatsoever. And then I just felt like the pulse of the universe going through your body. I don't know if you ever grabbed an electric fence as a kid. It's kind of like that, and pulsing through, but this feels really good. You're like, wow, I am connected to everything at this point. I've learned to use the force, right? I'm a full jet, I can feel stuff. And then I started to see colors, like she had mentioned. And what that is, they say that's your third eye opening. So when you see these colors, you're actually opening into your third eye. So my good eye was no longer closed. right? It was open. I could see it, and then I could see what looked like a small sort of humanoid. He's only about 2 feet tall, pointy ears, greenish color, not an elf or anything, but like there. And he's there, and he's popping through the bush. It's almost like a squirrel teasing the ones to play with, right? And then all of a sudden, it just, as quickly as it started, it ended. The portal just sort of closed. It's not easy to keep your third eye open. So then my arms just lowered down. I was like, wow. So I started to walk back up the trail. And as I walked up the trail, I could see Kenny, the goat, was leaning on a tree. Right? He's just leaning on a tree. I'm like, I should probably go help him out. Right? So I went to walk, and then all of a sudden it just stopped me. Like a field of dreams. It's like, you don't go off this path. You stay right here. It's almost like they're like, we're doing something with Kenny right now. You just wait there. Right? So I stood there for quite some time, and then I saw Kenny kind of meander, walk over, and behind here, on that side, is a big dumpster. Kenny walked over to the dumpster, and then he just kind of collapsed. I was like, look at that. Kenny finally took out his trash. I was told to wake up and awake. He was told it's time to bring out the garbage. That was his signal he got in the morning. And then he finished taking out his trash. So he's over there. I go back to lie down. I got some time, so I sit there. And then there's these ants are moving on a log. And they're oblivious to me. It's as if I don't exist. Right? If you saw, like, there's no terror. They're not changing their path. They're doing what they're doing. Like, I'm not there. If we saw something giant coming towards us, we'd fucking flip up. Right? You would run or whatever. You wouldn't. And then I thought of it, is it the ship's not seen? And I don't know what the ship's not seen is, but when Columbus first came to the New World, the natives there couldn't see the ships when they arrived because nothing like that existed in their reality. It wasn't until they came in the small boats, when they started to come into shore, that the natives described as they mystically came out of nowhere and appeared. So I was like, is this like a ship's unseen? Is there ships unseen for us? Is there something bigger that we can't see or refuse to see? Is there stuff going on in the universe all around us that is there, but we don't see it because it doesn't exist in our known reality? So then I asked, I'm like, oh yeah, I'm supposed to ask where I'm from. So I lie back and I'm like, where am I from? And they said, we've been showing you since day one. We took you up, we showed you being born, we took you up at night, and yet, I don't know how many times we got slapped across the face. You're from heaven. Which is not an answer I thought was even possible. Right? I'm not religious. I thought, oh, maybe you could go there, but I didn't think you could come from there. So I was like, this is. I'm not very comfortable with that answer. I'm certainly not comfortable saying that in front of you people here. But that was the answer I was given. So we finish and sit down. Kenny, we're all talking. She asked me if I asked where I was from. I said, yeah, they told me heaven. And they gave me, she's like, I knew it. Right? She's like, I knew you were good. I'm like, they gave me 6 messages to deliver. She's like, oh my God, you're a messenger. I knew you were a big one, right? And then I'll say this, what you learn when you do the message, there's 4 of us that I know that have done it, and we all had different experiences, journeys. Some of us, like I saw visions. Kenny asked questions, time travel. Another guy was all through animals and insects, told things. But you get the same message out of it, right? Your journey's different, and the message is that it's almost like a secret message to help save the planet. But you don't have to save the planet. You're like a custodian or a guardian. There's no word to describe it in English. There's no word in Chinese either. I asked Kenny. But it bestows you with a feeling, and what it's telling you is like, we don't, like the Earth, the planet Earth, we don't live on it. We are part of it, right? We're conscious, the Earth is conscious, the universe is conscious. It's one big living conscious thing, and we're in it. It's almost like we're a cell in a giant thing. We're part of it. So treat the planet and the universe as yourself, because it is yourself. So treat it as such. So now we have to return to regular society, right? Which is a little tough to do and capable of naming this practice because it's hectic. But now I'm seeing things smoothly. Kenny the goat, he's having a little bit, he's seeing more hecticness. Right? So we've got a 24-hour layover in LA before we come home and we visit some friends. They're there and they're like asking us all about this journey. We tell them and then Kenny says to my buddy Dave, who we're visiting, he's like, don't you have a message for Dave? And I told Candy I got these messages, but I didn't want to give the message right then. I was like, you know what, maybe one day I'll call Dave. I wasn't about to do it right then, but now I've sort of been put on the spot. So I'm like, okay, Dave, I was told, I got this vision. I know how you guys, they have 3 boys at the time, they were having another boy. But you guys keep getting pregnant, you say, because like your wife wants to have a daughter. But it told me that it's really you just trying to have a miniature version of yourself, and that you're to name this child Dave Jr., and you'll complete the circle, and you won't have to go on having kids like an 18th century farmer. So his eyes went all big, and he's like, when did you have this vision? I was like, yesterday. He told me yesterday. He's like, this is crazy, but for the last 2 days, everywhere while I've been driving around, all I've been thinking is, I'm going to name this kid Dave Jr. So it's real all of a sudden. The message makes sense to him. I don't expect it to make sense, but like we both kind of know what's going on. He didn't name the kid Dave Jr., by the way. So when he has another kid, he can't say he wasn't born. But the message, it lets me know these messages seem to have meaning. So I get back to here, and I go to deliver the second message to my friend Rob, and I sit down, I tell him all about this experience, and then I say like, yeah, and I got a message for you. It told me to tell you, help me, help you, help me. And he's like, dude, that's Jerry Maguire. I was like, I know, but does it make any sense? You know what this means? He's like, I don't know what that means. That makes no sense. But he's like, but what you were telling me about, he's like, do you know who Carlos Castaneda is? I was like, no, I've never heard of him. He's like, I did my thesis on him in university, and what you've described sound very much like what his experience was in this book, The Teachings of Don Juan. You should read it. So I looked everywhere for this book. I looked in every bookstore, library. It was all over Vancouver. I couldn't find it. It was either sold out or it was supposed to be arrived, wasn't there. It was lost in the library. So I looked everywhere. I could never find this book. So I go back. Now I go to deliver the third message to my mother. So I'm at her place in Victoria, there, where I tell her, like, look, I've got this. I tell her all about this experience. Like, I'm supposed to tell you this message that you're supposed to let me go. Right? I'm fine. You've done your job. You can let me go. Turns out that all this that you were learning, all these books, everything that you were doing, wasn't meant for you. That was meant for me. You were supposed to show me this so that when I had this experience, I would be able to accept what was going on and be prepared when this happened. So it turns out you're the teacher. I'm the guy who's got to live by this code and go around and talk about it. And then she just started crying, because suddenly she realized what her life's purpose had been all this time, and it gave her meaning. And then I told her about the other messages I had given, right? And then she asked me she said to me, did they tell you where you were from? Which is an odd question for your mother to ask. She should know. So I said, yeah, they told me I'm from heaven. And she's like, I knew it. She's like, when I first saw you, I'm like, this is not a baby. This is your different. This is like a wise soul looking back. I don't know what this is, but it's not a baby. And I know all mothers say this sort of stuff about their children, but she's had 3 sons, and she never said this about either of my brothers. So I tell her about messages I've been giving, what the whole purpose of the thing is, and she said, then she goes over to that magic bookshelf I was talking about, and she pulls out this. She has a copy of Carlos Castaneda and the Teachings of Don Juan that I haven't been able to find anywhere. And she's like, this is the first book I ever got that got me started on this. This is the first thing I read that got me to start reading and learning all this stuff. And now you come here looking for it. So she's like, this is meant for you. So she gives it to me. And then I read this book, and in it is a description of that being I saw. They call him Mescalito. There's a drawing of him in here also, and it's the exact same being that I saw. Now this book was written 50 years ago. So either this guy and myself had the same hallucination 50 years apart, or we saw something that exists like that's a ship that's unseen, that we can't see. And these seem strange, but we take everything else away. Whatever's left is what is real. So now and if I don't deliver these messages in the order they've been given to me, they don't work. Right? If I don't see Rob first deliver message number 2, by the time if I went to my mom first, I wouldn't have found out about the book. It wouldn't work. There's actual order to the messages that have to be given. So the next message was for my dead grandmother, the grouchy one. And I was like, oh, well, how do you deliver a message to a dead person? That's not an easy thing to do. So I'm like, okay, so I went to a grave site. I hadn't been there since her funeral, and that was an awful experience because I was a pallbearer, and while we were getting ready to unload her, one of her sons yelled at the other son, like, get over here, right? Like, they couldn't wait to get her in the ground, right? It was just this awful experience. I hadn't been there since, so I don't know what to do, so I just sort of knelt down by her grave, and then I said, I have this message for you, and the message is, I'm sorry. Like, I didn't know, I'm sorry, I didn't know what happened. And then I just felt like loneliness, like just the emptiness, like someone, like a need for love, like I've never felt before, and getting love, like just, so I was stuck there for like 20 minutes, right? I couldn't move. I thought I would just say this and leave, but now I couldn't move. I was being held in place while this love was being soaked up. And then I just kind of got up after it ended, and then I went home, and because you can't really, go home and tell someone about it. You have to wait until you're in front of a whole bunch of people and tell them about it. So the fifth message was for an ex. And if you think it's hard giving a message to a dead person, you should try giving one to an ex. And when I say ex, this isn't like an ex like we just broke. This is like when we broke up, we should never see each other again. So I was like, there's no fucking way this message is getting delivered. Right? I was like, guys, I did a lot of work for you. Sorry, message number 5 ain't gonna happen. Right? There was no way I was gonna give this message. So for 5 months, I walked around, I wasn't handing out this message at all, even though all this stuff had happened. And then, it turns out, I didn't know where she lived, our streets intersect at one point in Vancouver, and we literally, crossed paths. We basically walked into each other. So now I have to stop, and, we're doing small talk, we're doing all the small talk stuff for 10 minutes, it's very awkward, but the whole time I'm thinking, man, I'm supposed to, do I give her this message? I'm here, we met in a pie, okay. So I told her, look, I did this strange thing. I went down to do ayahuasca, and they gave me a message to deliver to people. I didn't want to give you yours. I was trying to avoid you. You can find people anytime on social media. But they told me to tell you that they were looking for you, and when I gave you this message, you would know what it was about. And then she just reached into her purse and she pulled out this single white feather, and she said she had seen a spiritual guide. She's a little out there. Yeah, she's a little out there. I'm the one here doing this. And so she said the spiritual guide had given her this feather 6 months ago, which was exactly when I was down doing the medicine, the exact same time. She said, and I've been carrying around for 6 months ever since. I didn't really know why I was carrying it, but the entire time I was talking to you, I just kept thinking of this feather to give it to you. And now, when you say this, I know what the message is. This wasn't meant for me. I didn't know why I was carrying it. This was meant for you. So she gives me the white feather. I don't really know what to make of it. We part ways. And then as I go home, when I get to my building, at the entranceway to my building, the door is a single white feather. I walk into my building, the elevator doors open up. On the elevator floor is a single white feather. I get up to my floor, I come out, I'm on the 11th floor, I walk, and in front of my door in my apartment in my building, a single white feather. So I'm like, this is a marker, right? This is a path. It's showing me the path to home, to where I need to go. So when I see a white feather, that to me means yes, right? So when I was thinking about writing this and I saw that white feather, that told me yes to come and do this, right? When I see that's a go sign. So I'm here because I saw the white feather. you're here because I'm here. So in a way, we're all here. This whole experience that we're sharing right now, but we always think we do things to create what goes on in our universe and start saying this whole thing was started by a feather. So the last message I have to give, the sixth message, is for you. It's for all of you. I was told to tell you this, so I've done my part. And I don't know what this message is for you. Only you know what this message means to you. But just think to yourself, like, do you see signs? And when you see a sign, do you follow it or do you ignore it? And when you see a white feather before you, will you know you've seen a sign? To my pal who was here and assisted me with all this, going on another journey with me, the goat himself, Kenny Tremblay. Thank you to all of you who came out to the show. This was a really important thing for me to do, and you made